if there's one thing that I have learned about the male species, is a lot of them that claim to be stoic, which I don't have a problem with. I don't have a problem with being stoic at all, you know. But the only problem, along with debate, that I do have with this whole stoicism movement is that not all, but a percentage of males that take up this movement are carrying demonic influences without even realising it. They can fool their consciences into thinking that they're following the right path, but they're not fooling my conscience. Because I've had encounters with many males, right? And I could see, quite literally, the demonic masks that they're wearing behind the whole stoicism movement. Now, like I said, do I have anything bad against the stoic movement, or as I'd like to call it, the stoicism movement? No. Not even a little bit. I do, however, have a problem with wolves in sheep's clothing that are practicing toxic masculinity. Because if you think about it, those that claim to be following the stoicism movement but yet are carrying narcissistic spiritual masks, they're not even really stoic themselves. They are weak. And they're trying to hide it with the fake kind of smile or fake, I don't know, cheeky laugh, even if it's a brief encounter, and all of this nonsense. I believe to be really stoic, it's good to have emotional maturity along with emotional intelligence, might I add. Therefore, with emotional maturity and emotional intelligence, they're real connections. In other words, their real connections can actually, in fact, be developed within time, where pride and ego is no longer seen nor heard. Rather, the souls are communicating indirectly with one another, despite any indifferences of opinions, beliefs, or ideas, as you will. And this is why I don't follow the whole becoming, what's the word I'm looking for? Emotionally unavailable, if that makes sense. Because this movement, technically speaking, has actually duped a lot of men into living like robots. And it's toxic. I believe for any relationship to work, and yes, I'm referring to the men and the women here, for any healthy relationship to work between a man and a woman, there has to be some, what's the word I'm looking for? Giveway. I believe the male has to be masculine, for one, along with stoic. But that doesn't mean becoming a cold-hearted, malicious, unavailable, machine-like person. You know, because that's just ludicrous in itself, isn't it? I believe for any relationship / marriage to work between a man and a woman, he has to be masculine and stoic, along with emotionally intelligent and emotionally mature. Therefore, he can actually, in fact, handle himself within any difficult situations. And when I say difficult situations, I'm talking about your everyday, normal, trivial things. So to you guys, that are following this satanic movement of practicing stoicism without the emotional maturity and emotional intelligence, you have to can it. Now, this video is going to get a lot of backlash. The hell with it, I might even be called weak and God knows what else myself, but you best be prepared that I will come at you with the sound biblical scripture, and I will challenge each and every one of you, and I'm guaranteed to hurt feelings and emotions in people. No fucks given. It is what it is. And this is why we have the mess that we have involving the male psychological functioning. It's due to the fact that they're taking up worldly cult movements that teach stoicism and masculinity and all of this shit, which I'm one, for, but they're going about it the wrong way. It's based on lies, sugar-coated information, along with deceptions, woman hate, along with man hate. And this is why we have the mess that we have involving women hating us men and us men hating particular said women that feel the need to fight for our, authority and our power, as you will, which we already know is not going to happen, by the way, because the patriarchy already proves this to be true. Hence why a lot of us are single, even, and we choose to remain single. Because like I said, we're not settling for slops. We're not settling for average. We are settling for what is real and what currently aligns with who we really are in here and in here, and not with how the world tries to perceive us into being, if that makes sense. So my advice to anyone caught up within these movements is can them. It's false information. Now, do I believe in getting wrath with the opposite sex if they step out of line and cross a boundary? Yeah, you best believe I do. And trust me, I'm guaranteed to leave them crying in the long run. Once again, no fucks given. They're going to learn a valuable life lesson, that I'm not to be crossed and I'm not to be underestimated. But what this toxic movement of, stoicism and toxic masculinity teaches is that men should actually, in fact, have a murderous hate towards women. And this is why we have crime rates within the male species facing life in prison, or better yet, death row within prison, all because they chose to allow the world to get inside their head and their heart and convince them into killing said women. And this is why we have the mess that we have in today's society, because they chose, like I said, to take the world's voice and not the gospel word. And this is why I take what the gospel says over man and woman all day, every day. Because man and woman think they're doing God's work, a lot of them, yeah? But little did they know, they might fool the consciences that they have, but they're not fooling mine. Because I so happen to see the spiritual masks on said people. They're not keeping anything away from me whatsoever. They can try, but they're going to fail every time. Or you best believe they are. Just one brief stare into their eyes is enough to actually, in fact, provoke tears out of them. Real talk. Because they know I'm a real one. Whether they want to admit it and accept it or not, they know deep down within their heart and mind that I am a real one. And that my identity in here and in here cannot be bought. There is no false image that the world can convince me into putting on, into being a part of this world like everybody else, because I am me. I don't have an identity. I was born into the world at baby birth. Technically speaking, I'm going to leave the same way when my physical body departs and my soul moves on. Thus ultimately making anything within the system itself, thus including phony connections in people, completely and utterly irrelevant and non-useful. Now, if people are willing to put away their pride and ego, and they're willing to listen to someone that isn't of this world, then I believe, within due time, we can actually bring back God's patriarchy. Into rebooting all of the damage that all of this propaganda, along with government tyranny, has actually in fact inflicted upon the system itself. Think about it, people. Go back to, say, early to mid-90s, when we had the TV show, what was it called? Art Attack, right? Where you just see these pair of hands doing magnificent, creative artworks out of, say, socks or underwear on a field, things like this, yeah, or better yet, pasta bags and pasta out of the bag and all of this, yeah. Go back to the 90s. A lot of people back then, whether you were young or a grown-ass adult, right? A lot of people, to some degree, had an inner child within them, right? But ever since this propaganda, along with the government tyranny that we've had over the years, they've taken that all away and placed limitations upon our free will. And this is why I see so many people in today's society that refuse to live, like an OG, an old soul, that choose to live like children, because they are still, technically speaking, to some degree, programmed into living like a child. But if people read the scripture, they would realize that souls within time can actually in fact grow, evolve, and age gracefully. However, this is where it becomes conflicting for many. In order to receive that narrow path along with gift and blessing, sacrifices have to be made in putting away childish things. And this is what many people don't understand. They still to this day do childish things and then try to convince me they're growing and evolving. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you're not growing, nor are you evolving. You're still technically a child within your heart and your mind. I don't care who you are watching this video, and I sure as hell do not care if you get offended. It is what it is. I do, however, care in preaching the truth, and if the gospel clearly and evidently proves, like I said, that souls within time can actually in fact grow, evolve, and age gracefully, then I'm going to actually, in fact, pass down what the gospel actually predicted 6,000 years ago. And if you were to go back to the days of Jesus Christ 2,000 years ago, rather than take man and woman's word. It doesn't matter what people spout at the end of the day. Like, they could be spouting all of these sweet, enticing words to those that don't have spiritual discernment. But yet, if you have spiritual discernment, you will know deep down whether they're chatting complete and utter fecal matter or whether they are speaking the truth. It is what it is. Common sense, really. And this is what many people lack today. They would rather choose to remain locked in here and in here into living like a child, rather than to put away childish things in order to grow, evolve, and age like a fine wine. It's a wrap.